Welcome to State of the World. If you're just tuning in, we're just jumping on a call tonight because Clare Azzougarh is really worried about her father, who was detained by Israel after attempting to reach Gaza on that aid flotilla this week. Clare, thanks so much for joining us. I understand your dad was allowed to be detained for 72 hours, and the 72 hours are now up. Is that right?
So first of all, he's 72, and also he did sign a form, which we were told if he signed this form, which would request that he was deported in 72 hours, and that 72 hours is up, and they're usually deported within that time frame.
And you've heard that he's had his heart medication confiscated during his time that he's been in Israeli detention. Is that right?
It's just his general medication. I'm probably not going to talk about exactly what it's for, but yes, he had his medication taken away, and he did complain about it when he had his consular visit, and they flagged it to the prison staff, but we don't know if that's been rectified. And I also know that a couple of the other detainees have actually gone on water strike, including Emma Farrow, a French MP, because captives are not being given their medication.
For people who aren't familiar with who your dad is, he's Malcolm Dycjer. He's 72 years old. He's a military veteran and was on this aid flotilla. He was detained in international waters this week by the Israelis and has been in detention so far for 3 days. And as far as I understand it, you haven't had contact with him personally, have you?
No, we haven't had any direct contact with him. He's been in their custody since Thursday morning, so we're coming up to 4 days now. And we haven't had any direct contact, but we have heard from, there is a legal charity who are representing him. They have called us to let him know, to let us know how he's doing, to let us know what his concerns were. And then we have had one call from the FCDO to tell us that they've also paid him a consular visit and to tell us that he said that he didn't have his medication, that there was not enough food, and that the water was unclean. But other than that, to tell us that he's okay and he'll be home soon.
And did the Foreign Office say whether they were able to do anything to help with those conditions, to help him get his medication or more food and water?
No, they don't say anything like that at all. It really seems to me that what the FCDO are capable of doing is taking information from us and relaying information that they get, but actually they did flag and they did request that he get better medication, but other than that, I don't know if they have made any efforts to improve the conditions of my dad.
Now, there's been reports that Greta Thunberg didn't receive good treatment while in detention, allegations that she was pushed around at best. I can't remember the exact detail, forced to kiss an Israeli flag. Do you have any idea how your father's being treated? And have you heard any more about the treatment of the other detainees?
We are trying to stay off social media at the moment because as a family, when we hear these stories, it's incredibly distressing for us. And just for our own sanity right now, we're trying to stay away from that. However, because I do have friends who are on the flotilla, they're on a different boat, and because they are different nationalities and their governments have worked really hard to get them out, they are now free. And I've just seen them return home, and they have spoken about the same thing: lack of food, lack of water, poor conditions generally, being actually awoken every 2 to 3 hours with guards coming in with guns and dogs, so not allowing them to sleep either.
Now, given your dad's age and the fact that he needs daily medication, do you have any idea why he hasn't been released yet?
It's an absolute mystery to me. I don't understand why he was not prioritized, because 9 Brits have actually been released and have on their way home as we speak. Now, actually, there are 5 Brits that remain in that prison, and my father is one of them, and we have no idea why. And the FCDO told us they don't understand either.
What are the reasons behind you now turning to the media tonight?
Because after hearing what we've heard, after hearing that he's not getting enough food and water, I'm really scared about the long-term impact on his health and the short-term impact on his health. He's a 72-year-old man, and whether you agree with what the flotilla did or not, no human being deserves to be treated like this, especially a humanitarian just trying to deliver food and medicine. It's completely outrageous. And I'm really, really upset that we haven't heard a word from our government, or a word from the Prime Minister or the Foreign Minister to say anything about my father, about any of the other detainees, about the conditions they're kept in, to request that they return home safely to their families. And it's sort of unbelievable that we're at this point.
And what is your message to the British government, to Keir Starmer tonight?
That they have a legal responsibility to their citizens, and I request that they demand the Israelis release all British citizens immediately. That's his legal obligation, is to protect them, regardless of what he thinks of their mission. But to reiterate, they were on a humanitarian, UN-backed mission that was completely founded in international law, and they were just trying to bring food and medicine and toys to the starving and besieged people of Gaza, something that the government should be doing.
And what would be your message to the Israeli government tonight?
Respect international law. Respect international law. End the occupation. Release my father. Release all the detainees.
And what do you know about the nationalities that have been released so far, and how other nationalities are being treated in comparison?
So we know that the Turkish government sent a plane to get all Turkish nationals out, and that many other Arab countries had participated in that, with Morocco taking out all their nationalities as well, and I believe Kuwait as well. There were 9 British nationals on that plane, amongst other nationalities. And I think we've just heard that the Spanish and the Portuguese also have just repatriated their citizens as well, but nothing as yet as to the 5 remaining Brits in this high maximum security prison in the Negev.
And as a family, what are you going through right now?
It's really hard to say. You know, we had false hope at one point that he was coming home, because they said 72 hours and we were jubilant. And now we're just rock bottom, crashing down, because the 72 hours have passed and we have had no news. He was meant to have a visit today from the lawyer, but there's no news. They're not allowed to take phones into the prison. Clocks are banned inside the prison. So it's impossible to know time. It's impossible to get any information directly from the prison. We just have to wait and be so patient. And I just wish we had more protection, more reassurance, more support from our government, so we felt like something was being done, because right now we feel abandoned.
And your dad clearly is an incredible character to have chosen to do this at his age. What were his motivations for doing this, for joining the Flotilla and trying to reach Gaza?
I think that my father had always believed in the structure and the institutions of international law, and the institutions of humanitarianism and the United Nations that existed. We always believed that things would always kick in, something would happen, someone would do something, and it became increasingly clear that nothing was going to happen, and we were going to watch these people starve to death on our screens, and that's what's exactly been happening. And I remember the day before my dad was intercepted, a baby boy died from starvation. And that is exactly why he took on this mission, because he thought, I just have to try something. I can't sit at home and do nothing. And especially when they called for people with sailing experience, he felt, well, that's what I have, so that's what I'll give.
And for those who listen to our interview and say, well, your dad knew the risks, what would you say to them?
Yes, he did know the risks. He did know the risks to a certain extent. And he was trained. The Flotilla organization are an incredible organization, and they've given them extensive training. And so when they kept telling us, they know how to cope and withstand the detention that they're receiving in Israel to get out. However, this time is different. This time I feel is different to any of the other flotillas, because they're not being kept at the Ashdod port and then quickly deported as normal. There's a lot of terrifying rhetoric coming from Ben Gvir at the moment. And the fact they were taken down to this maximum security prison, which is 2 hours away from the diplomatic and political center of Tel Aviv, the fact that they're put into a maximum security prison. And now what everyone is saying about the terrible conditions and the fact that there seems to be no speed, everything seems to be very slow. So it seems to be extreme, it's different, And I just thought that my father's age and health would expedite his release, and it seems that that's not the case.
And are you receiving any support, any consular support at all right now, in terms of from the British government at home, or for your dad? He's had that one visit. Has there been any suggestion that they will go back, that they're offering support?
So far, no. So far that we know that they've had that one consular visit. We called all the time. We called, multiple times today to see if we can get an update, and also with more distressing news to say, has this happened? Has this happened? And they are unable to give us anything concrete. They did say to us that the Adala, the legal charity, have gone down again to see him today. Again, we await. But we were the ones that informed them, it's the 72 hours are up tonight. They didn't realize that themselves. It was us that had to call and be like, the 72 hours, we're expecting to hear something tonight. And we've heard nothing.
You've heard nothing. And Claire, in short, what's your biggest fear right now?
That's unspeakable. My biggest fear right now is that my father is suffering too much and that his health will be terribly impacted, and he will come back to us needing a lot of care and support. And I don't want that for him, because all he was doing was to deliver aid and food, and he did not. Nobody is deserving of this treatment. But he did not commit any crime, and he is not deserving of this treatment. And I would say that a friend of mine who came out said we really are just experiencing like 1,000th of what Palestinian prisoners experience. So I am aware of that. But again, my dad went there as a humanitarian to help to deliver food and aid, and he's 72 years old. And that's my concern as his daughter, that he be returned safely and as soon as possible.
And that he signed a document when he was detained agreeing that he would be released within 72 hours, and that hasn't happened.
Yes, I think what happens is they are, the second document, they're offered 3 documents. The second document he signed, which just says he requests to be deported within 72 hours. Yes.
Okay. So it's a request. Yeah. And that hasn't happened. Okay, well, Claire, please keep us posted. Let us know as soon as you hear any news. And thank you for sharing your story with us tonight. Our thoughts are with you and your family.
Thank you so much.
And your dad.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Take care. Thank you. So that was Clare Azzougarh, the daughter of Malcolm Dycjer, who's in Israeli detention. He was on that flotilla. He's been detained for more than 72 hours now, and his family, as you heard there, extremely worried about his health and the fact that he hasn't been released yet. We'll bring you updates on this as soon as we hear anything more, as soon as there's any development. So hit subscribe. You'll see when our updates drop, and I'll see you soon.